Israel-Hamas war fighting is raging around Gaza's largest hospital, as Israel claims the Al-Shifa Hospital is being used as a shield for a Hamas complex. But hospital officials say patients are paying the price, telling ABC News they've had to allow some patients, including babies, to die. ABC's Patrick Reevell joins me now from Tel Aviv, Israel, with more on this. Patrick, doctors at the Al-Shifa Hospital north of Gaza say at least 3 premature babies died after their backup generator was shut down by a missile strike. They say they're doing everything they can, but that this is getting harder and harder. Walk us through what's happening there and what doctors are telling you.
Yeah, the situation in the Al-Shifa Hospital sounds simply nightmarish. I mean, we've been talking most days with some of the doctors there, and, you know, when we spoke to them yesterday, they said that the water tank on top of the hospital had been destroyed, meaning there's now no water, there's virtually no power. There's also bodies just lying out in the open in the courtyard because they have nowhere to bury them. They told us that they have to close the windows and the stairwells to stop the smell of the decaying bodies outside and also the garbage piled up inside the hospital. And this, you know, this is a hospital that right now is just turning into a place of horror. I mean, we've seen these terrible pictures of these babies who've been brought out of their incubators, these premature babies, and now just lying there because there's not enough fuel to keep those incubators running. We know that Israel has been saying it wants to provide fuel and has been offering to evacuate the babies, but so far the fighting is so intense around there that the doctors say that's simply not possible, and basically both sides are sort of blaming each other for the impossibility of evacuating these babies. But, you know, it's incredibly difficult in a war zone to try and evacuate 36 newborn babies. We saw this also terrible video of a grandmother carrying a baby that had been born 6 hours before and who she was carrying out on foot from the hospital. And the fighting there is just raging around the hospital, and as you can imagine, the situation there is just getting worse and worse.
Absolutely awful. Patrick, the Palestinian Red Crescent Society also says heavy bombardment and explosions around the second largest hospital there is hindering the evacuation of patients and medical staff trapped inside. What's the latest there?
Yeah, I mean, so there are a number of hospitals in northern Gaza, and there is fighting going on around a number of them. Israeli forces are basically advancing on them because they say that they believe that there is a Hamas control center either under them or around them, and that therefore they need to try and first get people to leave those hospitals, and then they say they hope that Hamas will surrender and come out. I mean, actually, I asked an IDF spokesman yesterday, does Israel have the intention of going inside these hospitals and starting to fight? He said that no, the plan at the moment is to try and just hope that Hamas comes out. I said, what happens if Hamas does not? And he said, right now, it's just difficult to say. We know that the U.S. also has been warning Israel that it needs to avoid what we heard Jake Sullivan, the White House National Security Advisor, say that Israel must avoid having firefights inside these hospitals. But I mean, even that we're talking about this shows the really dire nature of things there, that we're talking about the possibility of Israeli forces entering these hospitals. At the time being, they're saying that won't happen. But right now, obviously, the conditions and the situation inside those hospitals is just dire.
Patrick, I know you also visited a kibbutz that Hamas attacked on October 7th and spoke to some volunteers there who walked you through these bullet-riddled homes. What was that like, and what are those volunteers doing there?
Yeah, I have to say it was a very powerful experience. We were taken there on a tour by the IDF. The IDF is taking groups of journalists pretty regularly into these kibbutzes. And, you know, and this is over a month now since that Hamas attack on October 7th. And I was firstly surprised still by the level of cleanup still going on there. The kibbutz is pretty much a ghost town at the moment. Most residents have been evacuated or left. And the kibbutz that we went, it was Kfar Azar, which had around a population of around 800 people. We know that around 60 people were killed there. 17 of the residents are still held hostage in Gaza. And, you know, what we saw there was actually groups of Jewish volunteers trying to kind of find every spot of blood and remains, because there is a Jewish tradition that those who have died the full body must be buried. And so we watched this young man, this 23-year-old man, take us through this charred house and take us into a safe room that was completely burnt, completely blackened. And on the floor, there was just congealed blood everywhere. And this young man was going to be cleaning that blood up. And there were bags laid out in the streets filled with just sort of blood-stained objects that are going to be brought together and then buried. And so I know we did get a sense of the huge emotional shock that Israelis are feeling from those attacks.
Patrick Reevell in Tel Aviv. Patrick, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.